Here.
Director Hawkins.
Here.
Director Aceituno.
Here.
President Apodaca.
Here. Who would I call? Mr. India's invocation?
Thank you.
Leticia Vasquelides and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Lord, once again, we come to you today seeking your wisdom and your blessings. We want to make the correct choices and have proper discussions and do it in a professional, all-engaging manner so that we can make the right decision as a district for our ratepayers, for our customers, and for all of the people. Amen.
Amen. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have certification. Public comments.
Yes, sir. We have a number today. I'd like to start off with John Semena.
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
My name is John Cermeño. I live in the city of Commerce. I'm a member of ACE, who has really helped me in saving my home. And I'm also a member of the Exide Community and Workers Committee. I know that all of you are familiar with Exide. It's probably the worst crisis we ever had in this community. It affects 6 areas: Commerce, Huntington Park, East Los Angeles, Borough Heights, Bell, Huntington Park, and Vernon. So I'm here to oppose the Delta Tunnel project. We feel that money can be allocated to another area in our community. Our community is in need of projects to help us, particularly the Exide issue. We feel the Exide issue is a genocide issue. Clusters of people are dying in these areas. I know for a fact I walked street door to door. I met families who 10, 12 of their family members had died of cancer. So we feel this project should not be granted, and we should look for areas to allocate money for this community that needs it, particularly the water. Eventually, the issue of lead and arsenic will become a water issue. We haven't gotten there, but we know as we vision, as we do research, we see that eventually it'll be that. So please oppose this issue, the Delta Tunnels. Thank you very much. John Cermeño.
Thank you.
Roland Solomeric.
Thank you very much for let us exercise our democracy. Most of the corporations, when they make this investment, they always expect to get a lot more than what they invest, and we already have a heavy way to pay those water bills, and they don't really do with good intentions, At the same time, they're going to damage the environment that is so fragile in that area where they're going to get the water. And another thing, you're not going to give us percent of that water that's going to come over here to us, to mitigate our packet. Most of that is going to go for the growers over there. So we really don't want it that you invest that money over there. We have to start to thinking big. We inventing here in America the way how made the raining come, chauffeur back in the 40s, 44 Dyson chauffeur, made for the first time the raining come, from the clouds. And now we abandon the things, China is using this. Some other countries are using this thing. We have the water over there. We see the cloud that's passed over here. They're going to Florida, Texas over there. And even when we have that technology, when we invent that technology, we don't use the thing. So I strongly suggest you to get more innovating the thing for the new generation. At the same time, you give the chance to the new generations and to the students to develop their mind, to see how we can use new technologies to advance the society. Don't let that happen with the cars, Henry Ford, we made the car over here, and now the cars from Japan, from other places, are taking our market, very badly here. So please, use these resources, to make our society strong, to make our younger people to use their mind, to invest in that thing that we have, we're losing. So please keep the focus on this. We need those resources to use here locally, not to for those corporations to take advantage of that money, and get our resources. Thank you.
Yvonne Watson?
Good morning, board members. My name is Yvonne Watson. I'm a member of the Angeles Chapter Sierra Club Water Committee, and I'm here on behalf of the Water Committee. I have some documents here I'd like to hand over so that you can take a look at the Sierra Club's official position on the Bay Delta tunnels, now known as the California Water Fix. This project is opposed by the California Sierra Club. We are opposed to it because there is no guarantee that any of the money that's spent on this project is going to actually guarantee a reliable source of water for Southern California. This project is going to have tremendous environmental impacts in the Bay Delta area. I'm still waiting to get a percentage breakdown of the water that they proposed coming down through the Delta area and Central Valley into Southern California to see exactly how much of that water is going to be siphoned off by different interests before it ever reaches our area. And yet we in Southern California are being asked to pay the lion's share of the cost for this project. I don't think that that's fair. We need to be able to know exactly how much of that water will we actually get. And so far, Metropolitan Water District has not been able to provide that information. As you can see from the papers you'll be receiving, this is not going to solve our problems. It does not create new water. It just shifts existing water around. And there's no guarantee, again, that any of that water will actually be available to Southern California. So you might end up with two giant tunnels that are empty. And how does that benefit anybody? In addition, these are just really risky for infrastructure when it comes to infrastructure, because we don't know what might happen in the event of an earthquake. How will those tunnels fare? How will they handle an earthquake? I just want to mention that here in Southern California, we have issues with our infrastructure. We are in need of tremendous amount of money to fix what's happening here just in the LA area. We just had the third water main break in about 2 weeks, happened just like 2 days ago. These are 100-year-old mains. They are reaching the end of their life. And it's going to be so expensive to try to plumb everything that's here in Southern California. And we're being told we have to pay for this project in the Bay Area when there's no money to fix our pipes right here. That's why we are opposed to this. We think there are better alternatives. We have been presenting those alternatives. And frankly, I'm a little upset that I've been hearing things that Metropolitan Water District says, well, there are no alternatives that have been presented to us. We have been working on this for years. So you can go to our website, you can see the additional information that's there, and you can see for yourselves there are alternatives to this project. Thank you.
Dr. Tom Williams?
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community, life member of the Sierra Club, Angeles Chapter, and a few other things. I've worked in the Delta. I've been there. I know how it works. And in fact, I was asked to testify to the water board, state water board, regarding the water fix. You got a pig in a very soft poke. Why the water fix? The water fix is to protect the water from earthquakes. If the levees fail, boom. However, the same earthquake risk assessment is not being applied to the tunnels. I have built tunnels, and what they have of 2 tunnels, 40 foot in diameter, 4-story building, won't stand in an earthquake because every once in a while they connect them to a fixed vertical shaft, i.e., when the earthquake that would destroy the levees come, the water tunnels will fail. They don't have enough right now geotechnical information to really price the tunnels and how much it's going to cost and what risk will they mitigate. So there's a real problem that you're buying a pig in a very big poke. And who's going to take up the, change orders? How much is it going to cost? If you believe the numbers that they have, it won't work with that. There's not enough money to attach those tunnels to the shafts, and you're going to have a major failure. Then, in the background, all of the water goes across the Tehachapi. No, about 30% of it might come across the Tehachapi. The rest of it is for the San Joaquin Valley. And if you go back to Chevron and Tejon Ranch and what they did with the State Water Project, I say there's a real problem. It's all for the San Joaquin Valley. If we get any water, that'll be amazing to me. And there's a basic element there that why should we be used as the excuse to have MWD buy property in the Delta and then push it? So it's going to be our cost. Well, no, it's not our cost. It won't be your cost unless you live in the district. However, it's going to be the ratepayers' cost. And just like the peripheral canal, the peripheral tunnels won't really work that well. Dr. Tom Williams, thank you.
Giselle Mata.
Hi, good morning. My name is Giselle Mata, and I'm a resident of Whittier. I believe I'm going to be affected by this rate and tax increase for the tunnels. The tunnels will not supply any new water for our area, so why would I want to pay for it? I oppose the rate and tax increase for the tunnels. Our local water system would definitely suffer based off of our city funds being robbed to fix this tunnel or to build this tunnel instead of fixing our own water supply. The Central Basin and the Gateway City's recycled water expansion should be one of your priorities. You should be making sure that your residents and your constituents have more water and more affordable water for our communities. That should be your top priority. You should be making sure our water is not only accessible, but it's clean. It's free from lead, free from toxins. This project wouldn't deliver any more water or benefit to our communities and would cost us billions. The only people that would benefit would be families like Stuart Resnick's from Palm Wonderful. So it makes sense for a no vote on this. I don't know of any benefits to this community. I would love for folks in the room to share what benefits our communities would get, because right now I see none. And we're also looking for jobs in this area. A tunnel project would be temporary jobs. If we're recycling or using reclaimed waters, those are permanent jobs. Not only a couple hundred for months, but thousands for a long-term sustainable job creation. So I hope you'll oppose this tax rate and this increase that wouldn't benefit our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Magdalena Keating.
Hello, my name is Magdalena Guillen, and while being informed about the Delta tunnels, I'm inspired to quote the immortal words of George W. Bush. I never thought I would quote George W. Bush, but here I am quoting George W. Bush. I know that human beings and fish can coexist peacefully. Yet Governor Brown appears to disagree, as he wants to build new tunnels to divert fresh water from the Delta region to support the Resnick family. Billionaires whose nut growing operations use more water than all LA households combined, and who sell 80% of their product to China, and who expanded their growing operations during the recent drought. Jerry Brown wants to float $67 billion in bonds secured by Goldman Sachs that will cost every taxpayer in California $200 per year for up to 75 years, for a project that will devastate the delicate Delta ecosystems that are critical to maintaining biodiversity in the Bay, all to benefit billionaires who want to export nuts overseas. Please support and fix our local water infrastructure. Offer more incentive to use gray water. Continue to encourage cities to conserve. Expand good local projects. Create local jobs building stormwater captures. Replace our water lines. Instead of financing into these tunnels on the backs of taxpayers, the Central Base Water Agency needs to expand water recycling, provide incentives so ratepayers can have affordable water rates, and reduce our dependence on imported water to create a more reliable and cost-effective regional water supply. For the Central Basin, the Gateway City's recycled water expansion should be one of our priorities. Local investments are a good use of tax dollars and are guaranteed to provide clean, toxin-free water, jobs, and reliability for all. Thank you.
Abel Gonzalez.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Abel González, yo vivo en la ciudad de Huntington Park.
Good morning, my name is Abel Gonzalez and I live in the city of Huntington Park.
No estoy a favor de subir nuestras facturas de agua para pagar algo que no nos beneficia.
I'm against...
No estoy a favor.
I'm not in favor of...
A favor de subir nuestras facturas
of increasing our tax rates
de agua
of water
para pagar algo que no nos beneficia.
to pay something that is not going to benefit us.
Hay que invertir en nuestro sistema de agua.
We should invest in our water systems.
Pero este plan es una estafa.
But this plan is... I don't know cómo decir eso.
Que solo va a enriquecer a las grandes compañías agrícolas.
This is a plan that's only going to steal from us because it's only going to enrich those that are of big companies that are from their locals.
Okay, gracias.
Thank you.
Daryl Gale.
Good morning, Water Board. I'm Daryl Gale, and I live in Los Angeles. And I was especially impressed when I walked in and I saw the first two signs, stewardship and financial integrity. But I'm very concerned and confused about this tunnel project. Why should the residents of Los Angeles City and County pay extra for these extremely expensive Delta tunnels that will not render us any extra water or local jobs down here? Why aren't we promoting local, long-term, sustainable solutions like rain barrels for every home, apartment and business, especially businesses with large concrete parking lots? Why aren't we talking more about capturing and cleaning the water that we already have? What about local jobs? Excuse me. Fixing our pipes, our aging water structure. Again, let's talk about stewardship and let's talk about financial integrity. I'm very opposed to this tunnel project. Thank you.
Barbara Barragan Padilla.
Give me 1 second, thank you.
Good morning, Central Basin staff and directors. I'm Barbara Berrigan-Perea with Restore the Delta. I'm here to talk with you today about the real cost of Cal Water Fix in relation to investment in your water supply. Construction costs for the tunnels start at $17 billion, and that's in $27 according to Metropolitan Water District. That excludes annual operating costs and debt service. That could push the project up to $50 billion. It will take 14 to 17 years to complete the project without construction delays because you have designs still to finish before construction. As of today, the project is only 10% designed. Cal Water Fix, as proposed, does not meet the state mandate to reduce reliance on the Delta tunnels. Last week, Goldman Sachs made a presentation at the Westlands Water District in which they offered up a smorgasbord of finance operations for water districts like Metropolitan. They are including options of extending debt repayment for the Delta tunnels for out to 50 to 75 years. And that's where the problem begins. Doug Obigi, senior attorney at NRDC, completed a review of the Goldman Sachs presentation. He found that the baseline used by Goldman Sachs to calculate incremental water supply is much different than the one used in the CEQA NEPA document for Cal Water Fix. The Goldman Sachs presentation range for water deliveries matches the Met white paper that was published this last Friday as to what the range of incremental water is that you all would receive. University of the Pacific economist Dr. Jeff Michael found in the final Cal Water Fix EIS-EIR that the state water project would only increase deliveries by 186,000 acre feet. Why is there a difference between the Met Goldman Sachs numbers versus the EIR? Are you being sold a finance and water delivery plan by big banks that matches the same optimism that brought us the mortgage crisis? As the 21st century wears on and droughts become longer and more frequent, there will be fewer big gulps to fill those Delta tunnels. The entire project is likely to become a stranded asset from climate change because, according to a recent UCLA study, the Delta watershed is going to increase by 30% over the next 100 years. You have a great recycling project. The Gateway project needs expansion. You have people here who want you to invest in these local jobs. Every $1 million spent on the Delta tunnels will only create 4 to 6 jobs for $1 million of public investment. Investment in local water projects creates between 12 and 20 jobs. Think about your ratepayers. Do you want to struggle them and their children and their grandchildren with intergenerational debt for a project that will not create any additional water? Thank you. I have some packets I'm leaving for you with some additional information.
Brenda Norton.
Good morning. My name is Brenna. I'm a community organizer here in Los Angeles with Food and Water Watch. The tunnels would burden California and Central Basin ratepayers with an enormous financial commitment without delivering any additional water or any guaranteed benefit. In order to create a more reliable water system in California, you guys already have the solutions and you've been doing a great job on your recycled water projects, and that needs to be the priority, that 100% would deliver water, benefit, and in the long term, reduce dependence on the most expensive source of water for your ratepayers, which is metropolitan imported water in the long term. With the case of claims about earthquakes made, which are completely overblown, our communities would suffer greatly in the event that an earthquake severed the aqueduct that provides water to Southern California. It's known that all our imported water infrastructure runs over the San Andreas fault line. One earthquake could sever that. Just because we invest in the tunnels does not change that risk. The risk itself is depending upon water from hundreds of miles away, when you could instead invest locally in local projects and make that the priority for ratepayer dollars to make sure that we have local water in our communities in the event of earthquakes and other disasters. Again, I stress that expanding the Gateway Recycled Water Project and committing to those goals that you've set as an agency should be the priority, in addition to sending incentives for ratepayers to lower their water bill and make water more affordable. Because of recent public records requests, we've seen that there's been quite a high rate of people having their water shut off in the LA County area. And you've probably seen the LA Times article from last week about water affordability is going to be a growing crisis. So we need to make sure that projects that we invest in are going to actually benefit consumers and lower costs in the long term. And again, you guys have those solutions, and that's your local projects on recycled water. Independent costs show that from 17 to 67 billion have been the ranges of this tunnels project cost. And independent studies show that this would cost LA ratepayers from 200 to over 393 a household per year, in addition to all of their regular costs. And again, as was stressed from earlier speakers, the size of this project is mind-blowing. So you can expect from Oxford studies, from Bloomberg News, that this will run over budget, because these big projects often do. So I urge Central Basin to oppose the Delta Tunnel's rate increase and tax increase, and to represent your ratepayers for more water and long-term jobs. Thank you.
Elizabeth Prudente.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm coming on behalf of East Los Angeles College. I cannot stress about how much this could affect our communities. I am coming from San Gabriel in behalf of Rosemead, but I have a lot of friends, family members that live in the area of Boyle Heights, Huntington Park, and they are affected. I've seen the difference between their water and my water from the house, and it's so completely dirty. You see all these little particles, and I could just imagine how this could affect our kind of water. Studies have shown that if the tunnels do proceed, then many people who do drink from their tap water, they can end up getting cancer. And that's another thing that we're also fighting for. And it's not fair that we won't receive any benefits, and all the benefits will go to the people that are up north. We, as taxpayers, we can't stress about where does our tax money go to. How are we so sure that our money is really going to go to the Delta Towers? How are we sure that it's not gonna affect our health as well? And a lot of the animals, the wildlife animals that are out there, they're gonna be affected too, because of the free-flowing water that is fresh. The salt water is gonna overpower it. And a lot of the people that rely on fish, on vegetation, they're gonna be affected, because a lot of them are coming extinct, and a lot of them are gonna end up with diseases, and they're going to be imported to us and within our communities. And it's not fair for us. We take care of our health, we take care of our houses. There's a lot of people who, they don't shower for a couple of days, only people can afford it. We have the right to clean and affordable water. So we're asking for you to oppose and say no to these tunnels. Thank you.
Arpine Nazarian.
Good morning. My name is Arpina Nazarian, and I am an intern at Environmental Justice Coalition for Water. One of the most shocking things I learned when I started interning is that in this day and age, in one of the richest states in the nation, there are communities and people that don't have access to clean drinking water. And I recently found out that City of Paramont's groundwater contains chromium-6, which comes from the metal industry. Water is a human right, so our priority should be to concentrate on providing clean, affordable drinking water to communities and people that don't need it. Delta will only cause rates to go up, and it's not fair to our residents, and it's not fair to those, especially those who don't have access to clean drinking water. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what organization is that again? Environmental?
Justice Coalition for Water.
Okay, thank you.
I'm David Warren, resident of Whittier, and I oppose the Bay Delta tunnels. I agree with the Sierra Club on that, and so I hope you all take a position opposing them too. Thank you.
Robert McDuff.
Thank you very much for your hospitality today, for your patience, and for your attentiveness. I really appreciate that. I am also a member of the Sierra Club LA chapter. I am also opposed to the California Fixed Delta Tunnels project. The main thing is that you've heard most of the key items from the other speakers, and they've done a very good job with that, so I will keep my comments very short. But I think we should be keeping our dollars here in LA. We should be spending them on local jobs rather than up in the Bay Area. I am not opposed to agricultural interests in the Central Valley. We can have issues with some of the corporations, but that's a key industry for California. But I think we need to find other solutions for making better, more efficient use of the water, because that does take so much of the water in California. The other issue you've heard about is water quality and water affordability in your local district. And this is not going to be a solution for that. So you should be devoting your efforts, as I've heard you're doing a lot of good things about that, but we need to make sure that people have water that they can afford to get out of their tap that is drinkable and usable. I see way too many people having to go to the local store to buy jugs of water, and when they can barely afford rent and food, it doesn't make sense that they're having to spend that extra money on water as well. This is going to be a very expensive project, or very long term. It's going to saddle you with a lot of debt. The only way you're going to recover that is to increase the rates to your ratepayers, and I think that's something that you want to avoid. Thank you very much for your time.
Connor Efforts.
Thank you very much, directors and staff Central Basin. I appreciate the opportunity that you've given everyone who came to speak today, and I want to thank all the members of the public who came. We're partly doing this because we didn't have this opportunity at the Metropolitan Water District. When we were talking about conservation credits one time about 5 years ago, the first thing they did when we had 12 people show up to committee is limit us to 1 minute. It's hard to say much of anything in 1 minute. But I will follow on the comments that were made. But I'd also like to say, along with the human right to water, which is key within your district, I did give a presentation. I saw your general manager, Kevin Hunt, at Paramount the other day. I was unaware until I talked to the city councilwoman of the issues with Chrome 6. I've worked in Maywood for 14 years. I must be a failure because they still have problems with their groundwater, and those problems without some of the mutuals without access to any imported water for clean water. So we're forcing to go household by household to try to clean it up at this point. We have a woman engineer who's been trying to come up with a solution for that, and I think she has it. So as we move forward and water becomes less available, we've had the driest and the wettest in the last 2 years. That is what we expect from climate change. We cannot expect more water from the north or from the Colorado, which is in its 17th year of drought. So everything you've done, and I appreciate what you've done with conservation programs and with recycled water, need to be expanded, and citizens need to have some relief, and certainly water quality is a priority. And lastly, as a fisherman, I grew up fishing across California, and the idea that this would improve the fisheries by taking fresh water out of an estuary is wrong. And salmon and other species now, especially after the drought, are at extinction levels. This project will take at least 17 years of construction by the proponents' estimate. It's what we do in that time that makes a difference in what you can do to expand local jobs and local water programs. Thank you very much.
This concludes the public comment cards I have. We now go to service awards and standing ovations. The first standing ovation we have.
Kevin, before we go into that, can I just make a comment?
Yes, but
Yeah,
we cannot
Mr.
discuss
Chairman.
it because it's not on the agenda.
Right, yeah, no, I just want to make a comment. I want to thank the members of the public that are here to talk on this issue. I think this is a very important issue for the entire Central Basin. I took an opportunity to give several folks that were in the lobby earlier today a little bit of a background of who we are and what we do. The Central Basin was established in 1952 to provide imported water to 22 cities in LA County and also unincorporated areas. About 25 years ago, this agency had the vision of creating a secondary source of water to reduce our reliance on imported water and invested in an almost 86-mile recycled water pipeline that we use to deliver recycled water in our region. So our agency has been very much committed, and I think the board members that are here, Board Member Hawkins and Apodaca, who were here during that time, that had the vision to do that. There was no other agency in the region that did that. At this point, our focus has been on creating more local sources and giving folks access to our recycled water pipeline. And our actions on the board have reflected that. We have 2 representatives that are appointed by our board to serve on the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California board. The Metropolitan Water District of Southern California is responsible for providing imported water from the State Water Project, from the Colorado River, and from its other sources of water to a number of public water agencies like Central Basin that are a part of that district. So there are actually 2 different water agencies. And I wanted to make sure that I kind of gave the little, the Water 101 so that folks understood the landscape. So we have 2 members on that board which will be weighing in on this issue within the next couple of months. So I know that Yvonne has attended some of the water education tours that we host. We host 6. We take residents of our district to the State Water Project, which is one of the metropolitan sources of water. We also go to the Colorado River and to Diamond Valley Lake. And I encourage you to attend those water inspection tours. They really give our residents a bird's eye view of how we bring water into our communities. I have been on this water board for 5 years. I am a former council member. I'm an educator by training, so water was a new issue for me. I have learned tremendously about what is put in to build, maintain our infrastructure so that we can get up in the morning and turn our faucet on. And I really encourage you to learn more about it. I think it'll give you more insight about the issue that we're going to be voting on, the California Water Fix, and how it impacts our communities here in the Central Basin District, because it really does impact it. So I will be inviting all of you to, those of you that are here, to join us on those trips, which are going to start in the month of October. So just on the issue of water quality, the Central Basin delivers clean water. Okay, we have never had issues with our water quality. And with respect to reliability, we have never, our faucets of delivery have never been shut down for any reason. We have provided a reliable source of water to all of our communities, whether it's been imported water or recycled water. And with respect to affordability, our agency has over the years done its fair share to make sure that we maintain water, the water that we sell, as affordable as possible. So I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of background of who we are and what we do, and the difference between the Central Basin and the Metropolitan Water District, and just to continue to encourage you to learn more about what we do at both of our agencies, and to also encourage you to stay involved. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, our first item is a standing ovation. Roman Gonzalez, could you come up, please? I can away any time. This is a standing ovation for Roman Gonzalez, awarded recognition of his extraordinary performance and commitment to Central Basin District, its water purveyors, and their communities throughout his work in the Engineering and Operations Department. Over the last year, Roman's worked hard to become the district's in-house resource for the California Environmental Quality Act compliance for capital projects. Proven his capabilities as a project manager, brings great value to the engineering and operation departments of the district. His efforts, he managed a CEQA compliance project for the Gateway Cities Regional Recycled Water Project and La Mirada Recycled Water Project. Both are listed to come to completion in terms of the environmental process. In addition to managing the CEQA process, Roman coordinated district CEQA training for the benefit of all staff. His efforts, work ethic, and devotion, and extraordinary work performance merit a standing ovation. So I'd like to... That's one of our wonderful people. Is Lucia Sid Sanchez here? Can somebody get her, Lucia, and we'll go do the others? Mr. Donald Jones. Donald Jones is certificate award of 2 years of dedicated service with Central Basin. One of my favorite ones, Ruben Baez. Recognition of 5 years of dedicated service with Central Basin. Thank you. Certificate award for Jackie Kuntz. Recognition of 7 years of dedicated service. Next one is for Miss Peggy Williams, in recognition of 11 years of dedicated service. And Mr. Albert Plimpton, recognition of 11 years of dedicated service. And this is really neat because, stay here for a minute, Sandy Linares Plimpton, in recognition of 17 years of dedicated service to the district. And last, Lucia Sid Sanchez, recognition of 1 year dedicated service, and another one of the hardest working people I've ever seen. That concludes our presentation. We'll do pictures later.
Okay. Do we have any walk-on items?
No, sir.
Okay. If not, let's go to item 4, MWD activities staff.
Good morning, directors. Good morning. I have about 5 items I wanted to update you on regarding activities at the Metropolitan Water District. I'll try to be brief. First is the Integrated Resources Plan, the IRP. Last month, the board adopted policy principles guiding Metropolitan's role in the regional implementation of the IRP targets for local resources and conservation. This has been a result of ongoing discussion since their adoption of the 2015 IRP, with the goal for Metropolitan to address their role in development of local resource programs as a result of statewide mandates and legislation pertaining to water conservation. The second item is Metropolitan's potential regional recycled water supply program. The board awarded a contract to construct the demonstration facility. It's named as the Advanced Water Treatment Facility, located in Carson at the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. The demo facility will test advanced treatment processes needed to purify water for groundwater recharge, and technical feasibility studies will also be conducted to assess the viability of the full-scale regional program. The third item is cyclic agreements. The Metropolitan Board authorized to enter into cyclic agreements that can provide a credit of up to $225 per acre foot for in lieu deliveries. This program is being made available to the agencies impacted by replenishment deliveries. And due to this year's increased hydrology, Metropolitan now has a significant amount of water supplies available, and they're making this program available to agencies in an effort to reduce losing available supplies. For replenishment water, since late May 22nd, there has been no detection of any mussel villagers that everybody's been concerned about. Metropolitan is not subject to regulations with the Department of Fish and Wildlife to deliver any replenishment water. However, Los Angeles County still remains cautious in allowing these deliveries. So there has been several moving parts gaining traction towards allowing delivery that include biweekly review meetings between the county, Los Angeles County, Metropolitan, and member agencies. It includes Central Basin and Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. A draft indemnification language is currently under review. And there's a meeting pending between the agency general managers and the LA County director. And then the last was the in lieu agreement option recently approved by Metropolitan. So there's several moving parts that everybody's been trying to work with, trying to get creative and getting replenishment water into the basin. Lastly, regarding the California Water Fix, so Metropolitan released their first of 3 white papers focused on infrastructure to determine if the project is constructible and to evaluate risk management. So Metropolitan staff provided a very detailed review of the infrastructure paper. A copy of this was provided earlier this month, and additional copies can be provided upon request. The second white paper was just released a few days ago, and it's centered on operations. The third and final paper is scheduled to be released on August 14th, and that will be focused on the finance and the cost allocations. So in an effort to further evaluate and review all the components related to this project, staff is coordinating a briefing with our Metropolitan directors and other representatives from other Metropolitan agencies, and we will keep you updated as this schedule further develops. So that concludes my updates, unless you have any other questions or comments.
Questions, anyone? No. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Director Getty, do you have any additional comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. Only that the review of the white papers is a detailed process. There's a lot of information in there. There's going to be a lot of work being done by Metropolitan to present that information. The second white paper on operations was released Friday, and so I'm about halfway through that. Leticia perhaps is already done, but they'll be reviewing that over a number of meetings coming up, and a number of questions, issues, and comments I'm sure will be presented at the Met Board meeting as this goes forward, but we're all kind of looking forward to that August 14th final paper on anticipated costs or projected costs.
Director Vasquez?
I think Director Getney has pretty much summed it up. There's been a lot of work put into this point, and I think I hope that my colleagues will be reading the information. I believe a couple weeks, maybe the week before last, we did receive the white paper as a part of our weekly report. So hopefully the end of this week we get the operations portion of it so that we can all review it at our leisure.
Thank you. Item 5, action on minutes. Has everyone...
Director Apodaca, I wanted to note for the record that it was brought to our attention that there are a couple of grammatical errors in the minutes. So before you sign, we will go ahead and make those edits.
Okay.
Just noting that for the record.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Are we approving item 5 or the consent calendar? 5. You're not doing the consent calendar together?
Excuse me, Director, we're approving all of the minutes at once, we usually do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you want to pull any item, you discuss it.
So I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of the minutes so that they can be edited as requested.
No, I am sorry. I have questions regarding the consent calendar, not just the minutes.
If there's something you want to pull, you have to pull it off the agenda.
I'd like to pull
So I'll withdraw my motion.
the fiscal year budget and the ratings downgrading. I'd like to pull 7 and 12.
Okay. All right, do I have a motion to approve on those two? From
the balance? I move that.
I have a second.
So what is the motion? Is it to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items 7 and 12?
12.
Okay. Who made that motion? Director Oskui?
I did.
Okay. And second?
Second, Betsy, would you please second?
Sure, second.
Director Oskui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes, with just an abstention on 6A demands, check number 20828.
President Apodaca?
Yeah.
Then we had item 7. Director Grady had a question on that.
Yes, it's just a question. So I just want to understand. So is the finance director here? Or you're going to answer the question?
He's here too, but I'll answer the question.
So are we $16 million down from what we budgeted? Is that my understanding?
16 revenue or?
In the budget, in revenue, yes.
Yes. Yes.
And
again, much of our revenue is passed through, so that means that our potable sales were significantly less than what we projected.
Right, and so did that take into consideration, in this year's budget, did we budget for the full 32,000 that we've already received, that we've already put in the ground from...
In replenishment? Yeah, we're right on, for replenishment water, we're right on our projection. We are significantly under on potable sales and...
No, that's not my question. My question is, did we budget the 32,000 that we put in the ground, was that budgeted or was that just excess, is what I thought?
No, that was budgeted.
Okay, and we were able to get most of that in the ground.
Yes,
but there's still 5,000 that we will not get in the ground because of the invasive species issue.
Yeah, the WRD requested additional. The way we do a budget based on their request at the time, and then as they move through, they adjust occasionally. So we try and budget conservatively.
So last year they requested 32,000, and we were shooting for 38,000, and we were shooting for that.
Yeah.
So right now, what we've done is the budget looks like we came in about 49,000 on revenues and 47,000 on expenses.
11 months.
So so there's a net income of about $1.1 million, something like that, $1.7 million.
Yes, sir.
What does June look like?
June, the potable water sales are up, but still not significantly to make a difference. Recycled water sales are up to the normal levels. So we will finish the year with gross revenues in the low 50s, probably. And the balance, our revenues did not exceed our cost in that month because we have payments that are due out on a regular basis. So I think our final budget will probably end up with about 1.2 million. And again, that is not really surplus because we wait to do this. There are some principal payments that are not included in this.
I'm sorry, and I'm not worried about revenue, I'm worried about our net income. Are you saying that our net income is projected to probably be less than $1 million?
Our net income, when you take into account the principal payments on the bonds, I believe will be close to zero. It'll be balanced budget.
Okay. My other question regarding 12 is the ratings. So if you look at the debt ratio coverage, we're either at 74% under, we're well under what we're supposed to be, or we're at 101% if you take out the outreach. That seems significant to me, and I would thought that there would be more of a report about what we're going to do about that going forward.
Excuse me, I missed that.
That seems significant to me, the fact that we're so far below in our debt ratio coverage. We're supposed to be, what, about 105, 110%, 150%?
Yeah.
And we're at either 74, we're either below that by 25 points.
We're significantly below, and two reasons. One, obviously, is the lower revenue that we had in terms of the potable sales, but equally significant was the higher expenses for settlement costs and legal costs throughout the year. We had a couple of extraordinary expenses that came in that totaled approximately $1 million. And that is now those are behind us now, but that was the significant swing. When you have decreased revenue and you have an increased cost, instead of a decreased cost to match it, you're going to end up with debt coverage ratios like this.
I'm concerned that we just keep going down, and so Kevin, is there going to be some kind of a report or something that the new finance director is going to be able to meet with us? Is the finance committee working on this?
Yes, we gave a detailed report to the finance committee on this. We have included in their report we had from PFM. We had them come in and look at it, a consulting firm, before the finance director got here, and he's getting up to speed on the issue now. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting this Wednesday with our financial consultant to go through where we are in the current bonds. Our goal is to make our debt coverage ratio going forward and increase our debt rating back to what it was supposed to be. But, and that is, we had, like I said, last year it was the last of the year of cleaning up our historic litigation. That is behind us now. We have one minor lawsuit, I will call it, which should be cleaned up by the end of this week, actually by Friday. So we start the fiscal year basically litigation-free for the first time. That will help us significantly. Our revenue projections for this year are conservative. Our potable projections are down to what they were last year, which should be conservative. Our recycled water is very well analyzed, and our replenishment, I think, is conservative other than the Quagga issue. That's our only unknown right now, and we are working on that. But no, we as a staff, and we had into a board discussion, if you recall, when we went through the budget, we tightened down a lot of things, reduced a lot of costs to try and get this to where we can make our debt coverage ratio and keep our credit rating. And we were actually lucky this time. I mean, our credit down rating was to an A-. It could have been to a B+, and a B is a significant difference and increases cost significantly with our other letter of credits and that. So we have a lot of work to do on this, but we're aware of it and working on it.
I have a couple of comments as well once Mr. Grajeda is...
I'm done with my comments.
Okay. There are a couple of statements that are made by the PFM financial advisors with respect to the credit watch, and they're making several recommendations. I'm not sure if it doesn't say recommendations, but I'm assuming that they're writing this because they're recommendations. It says that greater clarity regarding the district's upcoming rate plans that is required, greater financial transparency, including the publication of a fiscal 2016 audit,
more refined year-to-date financial forecasts for fiscal year 2017 and an update for fiscal 2018, more defined near-term staffing plan. So are these recommendations that they're making?
These were done back in March.
Okay.
And at that time, we have since completed the audit and done the CAFR, and that was one of the issues that caused the downgrade, the delay in that. We've never had an auditor at CAFR late before, at least that I know of.
Okay.
And that's something we go have to off record sometime. But that was, most of their recommendations are stuff that have already been included in our new budget that we've done. So these are about 4 or 5 months old recommendations. I included them to show the board. We did this at the time that our former CFO left. We had an analysis done of both the finance department and of our ratings at that time.
Okay. It also says that there was a delayed audit. We consider the delay in publishing the final audit to be a credit risk. Why was the audit delayed?
That is not something I can discuss in open session at this time. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it has to do with a personnel issue, and I just can't do that.
Oh, okay.
But I'd be glad to talk to you offline.
Yeah, I think it would be great for the board to know what that is. And it says that the debt service ratio coverage in fiscal year 2016 and forecast in 2017 is inconsistent with comparable wholesale water utilities at the A rate level. Would you expand a little bit about what that
Exactly what it says is that other wholesale agencies in our category would have a better financial picture than we do.
Okay.
That's what they're saying in that.
Right, but
That's why they downgraded us.
Right, why is that?
Because their revenues were higher and more stable, and their costs were lower and more under control.
So they passed balanced budgets, okay. Okay.
President, if I may?
Yes.
I have some comments regarding the same item, number 12. First, a correction under summary, line 4. It should read fiscal year 2017-18. It reads 17-17, just for the record. The item makes reference to some discussions with S&P Global and the recommendations that they have made. I'm reading what they have said. Show an ability to control costs for the district. This means avoiding litigation and settlement costs. Now, I don't know how can you avoid frivolous lawsuits and that we have to defend.
I don't think the costs that we incurred significantly were frivolous lawsuits at the time that had to do with policies and procedures that were in place back in the 2012-13-14 period. We've since handled those with our administrative procedures, educating the board on how to deal with issues in that. So I think we have that under control in terms of the type of litigation that was costing us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. And the other one, it says demonstrate stability in the operation of the district. I suppose this is all financial. My question is how we're going to do that, how we're going to demonstrate that. What I don't want to be is, this came as a surprise. Obviously, we just started here. I just started. But this came as a surprise to me with the downgrade of the rating. I don't want us to be in a position to get another surprise. Of course, you are dealing with them on a daily basis, so you probably had some notion before they sent the official document. But I want to make sure that we are doing everything within our realm of control so that we are not going to be facing a similar situation in the future. Our discretionary funding is around $11.5 million. That's the only money that we can play with, in essence, to control costs and show stability in the operation of the district. And when we were passing the budget a while back, we talked briefly about having some sort of a backup plan, lack of a better term, sometime in August. Are we going to be looking at these issues, particularly sometime in August?
We have two different issues. First of all, the short-term plan that we're going to be looking at in September is with regard to the quads. and I'll be able to, if we have a settlement of the Quaggas in August, then we don't have a problem. If we do not, we have to plan on going forward. There is not any replenishment revenue. I'm working on that plan, and I'll present it per schedule. The second is the long-term financing future of the district, and we talked about that in the budget period. And it talks about it in here, if you look at item 2, implement a revenue stabilizing measure.
Right.
We cannot count on water from replenishment. It's not going to go to zero like the public relations says, but it will be intermittent and unreliable for a budget thing. So you need to replace that revenue or cut out what that revenue was funding. And what that revenue funded was services that many cities get from us that they do not, because they don't buy potable water from us, they don't fund. There are many agencies that use our Met representation, our water resource planning, our school program, our conservation program, which was very successful for us. Those type of programs and our outreach are all district-wide, and yet districts that don't buy any water get the same service as districts that do. We have a study I've started in-house, and I hope to be able to finish and take it to the board about a potential fixed charge to implement something that is equitable, meets Prop 26 requirements, stabilizes our revenue, and enables us to go forward, not growing as a district, simply maintaining what we're doing. And that's what we talked about during the budget. That is something that's on schedule to bring to the board this year. My goal is that the board would adopt in December or January, adopt this new fee, include it as part of our tools that we have when we set the rates and the budgets for the budget for next year. At the same time, the board should adopt a policy that any revenue from replenishment goes into the reserves to be used at the discretion of the board to either build up reserves for your financial rating or for recycled water. So that's the financial plan that we're working on right now. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, if there are any other questions, I'll make a motion to approve items 7 and 12 that were pulled.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Director Osculi?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Item 13, discussion and approval of Metropolitan Water District of Southern California's Conservation Rebate Program Partnership. Sandy.
Good morning. This item is brought to the board every year as part of our workings with the Metropolitan. As a member agency, we have the opportunity to, and actually the benefit of having these programs available to us that we can share with our retail agencies. So this year I bring to you Addendum 18 of the Water Conservation Funding Agreement. This is made up of two programs. They are the SoCal Water Smart Rebate Program, as well as the MWD Allocation Program. This year, Liberty Utilities is the only retail agency that has expressed an interest in providing supplemental funding for their customers that access the SoCal Water Smart Program. Central Basin, our own Southeast Water Efficiency funded program by Prop 84, will also be accessing $50,000 for rebates towards the toilets, urinals, weather-based irrigation controllers, and nozzles. These are fundings that will be used towards our local cost share of the grant. These are great partnerships, as I mentioned. It's between Metropolitan and its member agencies, our own regional water conservation efforts, and the current campaign as far as conservation as a lifestyle, along with partnership with Department of Water Resources and the Public Utilities Commission requirements for best management that Liberty Utilities needs to follow every year, as well as Central Basin. For fiscal impact, Central Basin is providing an initial amount of $374,000 to be used for rebates on local water efficiency devices through local projects. Any amount used will be credited to Central Basin's monthly water bill by Metropolitan. The supplemental funding partnerships will be charged to Central Basin's monthly water bill by Metropolitan and recovered by invoicing the partnering water retailers. In this case, it's Liberty Utilities. The Water Conservation rebate program will have no anticipated negative impact on Central Basin's fiscal year 17-18 budget. The recommended motion, if there are no questions, is that the board authorize the general manager to enter into a water use efficiency partnership agreement with Liberty Utilities in the amount not to exceed $20,000. Are there any questions?
Any questions, anyone? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item 14, the annual appointment of a board secretary and deputy secretary.
Good morning, directors. This is an item that comes before the board every year, and as stated in the Water Code, the board shall appoint by majority vote a secretary, treasurer, attorney, general manager, and auditor. Also, the code does state that aside from the duties that are imposed to the secretary and president by law, we should also perform duties imposed to us by the board. Some of the duties that are imposed to the board secretary are indicated in our admin code. Some of them are recording the actions of the board, preparing agendas and minutes, publishing and posting notices, and the other items listed on here. Also, whenever the secretary is absent, these duties can be performed by the deputy secretary. And unless the board has any questions, the recommended motion is that the board reappoints Margarita Aguilar as board secretary and Cecilia Pulido as deputy secretary effective today, July 24, 2017.
Questions, anyone? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you, directors.
Thank you. Item 15, discussion and approval of agreement with the Los Angeles Unified School District regarding 20 Boulevard Recycle Water Pipeline.
Good morning, directors. This is my item. This item is regarding Los Angeles Unified School District's plans to construct a 6-inch PVC recycled water pipeline on Tweedy Boulevard within the city of Southgate. The pipeline is part of a larger project LAUSD's plan is currently working on. The pipeline will provide recycled water to Legacy High School. The site will take approximately 11 acre-feet of water annually, recycled water annually. LAUSD has requested the Central Basin take ownership of the recycled water pipeline once the pipeline is constructed at no cost to Central Basin. Central Basin has reviewed and approved the plans for this pipeline. As a condition of taking ownership of this pipeline, Central Basin has requested that both agencies enter into an agreement that includes the conditions stated on this memo. The conditions have been added to the draft agreement. The last condition, which is that LAUSD will provide the district with 1 calendar year warranty for the pipeline. All of the appurtenances and any related work beginning from the day the ownership is transferred has been added to the agreement and is under legal services review. If there are not any questions, I would like to move to the recommended motion, which is that the board authorizes general manager to enter into an agreement with Los Angeles Unified School District for the acquisition of recycled water pipeline constructed by LAUSD on Tweedy Boulevard.
If there's no, is there any questions? If not, I will make a motion. I think it's a no-brainer when someone's going to pay for the entire installation and we get the benefit from it. I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Mr. President, I got a couple of quick questions. If I may?
Sure.
Was this a condition of development for LA Unified to build this 600 feet of pipeline?
Not one that we imposed. It was not one that we imposed. It could have been imposed by other people.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay, we don't know.
Yeah, we are not aware.
Also, the way the diagram showed, there is a portion of the campus to the north, if the north arrow is pointing up on this picture. I see a couple of fields, a baseball field and a field.
Yeah.
But the branch off shows a branch off to the south, which is undeveloped area.
Yeah.
Is that the portion that LA Unified is going to develop?
Yeah, there's two additional parcels that they will be developing, and our customer development team analyzed the recycled water usage that the southern portion will take, and it's about 17 acre feet. That's in addition to Legacy High School.
Okay, Legacy High School is an existing high school on the north?
It's the one on the north side, yeah.
All right. So they are taking recycled water already for the fields?
No, currently. The yellow line is the proposed recycled water pipeline that will be built. Once it's built, we're planning to connect it to recycled water.
Also to Legacy?
Yes.
Which is the northern part?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second. Roll call, please.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Let me add that Roman has been in charge of this project, and as most of you know, working with LAUSD is very bureaucratic and takes a lot of work. And this is one of the lucky ones. He's gotten it right through, and want to congratulate him in front of everybody. So
thank you.
Thank you, Roman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the next item is mine as well. I'm not sure if you want to introduce it. So the next item is the approval of the initial study mitigating negative declaration for the La Mirada Recycle Water Expansion Project. Aspen Environmental Group developed the environmental documents for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act for this project. The initial study and mitigating negative declaration were distributed for a 30-day public review and comment period to multiple local agencies as well as state agencies through the state clearinghouse. Hard copies were held at the district's office, and an electronic copy was posted on Central Basin's website. The review period was finalized on July 11th. Central Basin received comments from the Norwalk La Mirada Unified School District, Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, and the California Department of Transportation. Our environmental consultant prepared responses to comments, which are part of Exhibit A. The mitigating, monitoring, and reporting plan program is attached as Exhibit B, and the comment letters are attached as Exhibit C. If there aren't any questions, I'd like to move to the recommended motion.
Questions, anyone? If not, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Second that.
Thank you. That the board authorizes the general manager to adopt the mitigated negative declaration for the La Mirada Recycle Water Expansion Project, together with any comments received during the public review process, finding on the basis of the whole record before the board that there is no substantial evidence the project will have a significant effect on the environment because revisions in the project have been made by or addressed by the district and the district's environmental consultant, approve the mitigating, monitoring, and reporting program, and file the notice of determination upon project approval.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Item 17, discussion and approval of payment of invoice GA 424991 to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power.
Yes. Good morning, directors. In the 1990s, the district constructed a 16-inch recycled water pipeline along Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, LADWP's property, and this is in the cities of Paramount and Bellflower. The pipeline segment serves recycled water to 7 customers served by the city of Paramount for a total of 65 to 70 acre-feet per year. The pipeline is approximately 4,120 linear feet. The district had a 5-year license agreement for a 41,200 square foot right-of-way where the pipeline is located, but it has since been expired since June 30th of 2011. Details for this item were discussed in detail at the Engineering and Operations Committee. To provide some details for this item, the district initiated contact in 2010 before the agreement had expired. Before the agreement expired in 2011, LADWP informed staff that they needed to themselves complete a property appraisal before a new draft agreement would be issued to the district. To accelerate the process, and this was because obtaining an appraisal was taking quite a long time for LADWP, they suggested that the district go ahead and obtain an appraisal themselves. The district did obtain an appraisal in August of 2011 and provided it to LADWP in September. District staff kept reaching out to LADWP regarding the appraisal, and much later in March 2013, LADWP provided a response with a document, not an appraisal, showing a cost that was near what the district was already paying for the license fees. Due to this and that staff were looking for a reduction in costs, they wanted to research more options. In response to that particular document from LADWP, staff requested documentation of other agencies in the area with underground utility license agreements with LADWP for use for comparison purposes, and they agreed. However, the district has not seen documentation for underground utilities or a new draft agreement as of yet. In the meantime, LADWP said that the previous terms will remain the same as the contract that was placed on holdover, and the district will continue to receive a yearly invoice, and the invoice will be in the amount of $32,940. Staff received the most recent invoice on May 24th, and this would be for July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. Funds were included in the approved fiscal year budget for 2017-2018. And during the engineering committee, a question was asked regarding what happens if we choose not to continue with this agreement. The language addressing this question from the contract was inserted in your memo. The expired contract was also attached to this item as an exhibit. And essentially, if we choose to end this agreement, we will need to remove the pipeline and restore the area to its original condition. Or if we do not approve the payment at today's board meeting, we will incur late payment penalties, and the late payment penalty fee is 10% of the amount due. And with that, does the board have any questions?
Are there any questions by the board?
Yes, I have some comments. This item went before the engineering committee. We looked at it. The cost of the easements, annual cost of the easement seems extremely excessive, and it seems that the district would be better off just to get rid of this line than to continue to pay annually these excessive costs. I believe we instructed staff to talk to LA. Has staff done that yet?
I've set up a meeting. As you know, talking with the staff at the same department would get us anywhere. I had someone high up at Elliott Water and Power agreed to meet with me and discuss this issue and start taking it through. My recommendation would be pay at this time. It will take a while to get this through. Hopefully, we'll keep the engineering committee formed, and hopefully within 6 months or so we can have some resolution on this. I agree that the trouble is we have to take it out per the agreement, so it's one of these damned if you do, damned if you don't, because taking it out is an expensive proposition too. So I think this is something that can be worked out, but it's going to be political rather than technical to work it out.
I can't support approving this contract and this agreement.
I have a question. Did we look into the potential cost of what it would cost Central Basin if we were to remove this line, to leave it as it was when we signed into contract with them?
No, we have not detailed those costs.
But it would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars when we get an estimate on that. I mean, we conceptually know what the ballpark is to remove a pipeline of that size and replace it. And I think the main thing here is that there was a period of time that was rather chaotic in the engineering department here in 2011, 12, 13. And this has not been the highest priority. We have other things we've been working on, but we have not forgotten about it. We have a plan in place to work through with LA, and I think politically, nobody wants to be seen in this day and age as forcing another public agency to take a recycled water line out of service because of an easement issue. So I think this is something that will get resolved. It's just going to take time because you're dealing with one of the more complex bureaucracies in Southern California. And that's not us, by the way.
I would also be concerned about not just the optics, but the reality of us seeking grant funding for the expansion of recycled water lines elsewhere. And just knowing that the future of this district relies on expansion of our current system, taking an existing line out of the ground, I don't know what sort of message that's going to send out. So I'd be very concerned about that.
It's not a practical. I mean, I shared Director Grajeda's angst. When I first saw it, it's one of the first things that came to mind. Why do we have a bill for $32,000 when we're only making, there's an expense to doing it. It didn't make business sense. it's going to take a while to resolve. It hasn't been the top of the agenda, but it's getting there. So over the next 6 months, I think we can have a resolution.
Mr. President, I have a question. Do we have an idea of potential for recycled water expansion along this pipeline? Do we have any plans for additional usage of recycled water there, or is this annual revenue amount pretty much going to be it going forward?
We haven't looked at this general area in the recent years for expansion, but I'm sure that we have some sites listed in the area in the cities of Paramount that we're looking into. We could most definitely consider expanding this line.
Joseph or Donald, do you have any input on this?
Well, you can see on the map that a lot of the large green areas have already been identified. Potential sites that would be reasonably close to that line would be smaller medians, things like that.
Okay, but it's going to take some time, as I understand it, to potentially develop recycled water use in those areas?
Yeah, again, our priorities are the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak. The projects that have the biggest yield for the lowest investment is what we're working on right now.
Okay.
But we are always looking for opportunities to connect up the low-hanging fruit close in. I don't appear to see any immediate short-term ones that don't require some construction here, but we are always looking. But even if we're stuck with just this strip, I mean, it's 65 to 80 some odd acre feet. There's a different number, by the way, in the memo than in your verbal. But it's still a good amount of recycled water, and it's something that we should be able to deliver economically. This is just an anomaly in the system. This agreement that they came in for the easement. It's a very unique situation.
Kevin, did the memo say, I apologize if I missed it, the cost of this easement and the return on investment, are we breaking even? What's the difference?
No, the way I look at it right now, say it's 70 acre feet, where our charge is $700 an acre foot, we'll be getting $49,000 a year, and we're paying 32. The balance of 17 is not enough to cover our operation maintenance costs on it.
So we're losing money on it?
Yeah. Okay. And this stretch of it, but again, it's part of the totality of the system.
Any other questions?
Okay. With that said, the recommended motion to the board will be that the board authorize the general manager to pay invoice collectible number GA424991 for the amount of $32,940 to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power for the July 1st, 2017 through July 30th, 2018 fiscal year. LEDWP will in turn grant permission to operate and maintain the district's 16-inch recycled water pipeline along LEDWP's property in the cities of Paramount and Bellflower.
Mr. Chair, just before anyone makes a motion, one more comment is I think staff should work with LA Department of Water and Power and try to justify this cost. I don't think it's ever been justified from LA Department of Water and Power. I think they just threw out a number. I could be wrong. And we paid it. And there's no justification of why it costs $32,000 to have an easement like this.
We'll go look into, like I said, at the time it was done, which was many years ago, this is what they signed, but we will look into it, and like I said, it's on the list to do. I agree with you, it doesn't look right. It doesn't pass the smell test, so. And when I pointed out to my colleague at LA Water and Power, he agreed and said, no, we will help you with that.
So Kevin, is this something that can be done by them administratively, or does it have to go through some?
I think it can be handled it's a low enough number, it can be handled administratively when we get to the right person.
Okay.
It's a matter of getting, LA Water and Power is a huge organization because they do all the power and water. Easements are all covered in one group that is more concerned with power than water often. But again, this is one thing that's going to take a little process to get through. We've got it on our agenda now, we'll get to it over the next 6 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move the recommended action by staff, approval of it.
Okay. Roll call.
We need a second. Oh, thank you.
Need a second.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
No.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
No.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Hello, I also have the next item for the discussion approval for the operations and maintenance contract. So, good morning again, directors. The status that has changed since the last board meeting update is that we have completed the evaluation and the interview process. To start, I'd like to mention that I do have a few slides to go over today that...
Excuse me, before we get started. Okay. I do have 2 speaker cards here. One from Jean Marie Bruno from Liberty and one from Fred Price from Severn Trent. Would we like to have the speakers go? Jean Marie, would you let the speakers go first prior than the board, the staff recommendation?
Good morning, President Apodaca and board members. I am Jean Marie Bruno, President of Liberty Utilities California. And I want to thank Central Basin for the opportunity to work side by side with staff and the board as operator of the Century system for the last 25 years and the Rio Hondo system for the last 3 years. And we believe we've been providing excellent customer service to the district, and we really, really want to continue to do that. I'd like the board to consider the following if you choose Severn Trent. So for essentially no cost difference, you will have a company that has no experience with your recycled system. You'll be choosing a company that still needs to hire the staff that will operate the system. And not sure what type of customer service you might get with the brand new staff. The City of Bell Gardens had a different customer service experience with Severn Trent. But with Liberty Utilities, you have an experienced, seasoned staff that have worked on your system for many years. We operate it as if it were our own system and have pride of ownership. I counted about 17 staff members that help with the recycled system, and they average about 14 years of tenure with Liberty Utilities. And we can call on experts on water quality or GIS and engineering, and we have production, service and valve crews that can help when extra resources are needed. So we have a depth to the team that serves you, and all of it's locally here in Downey. In addition, we've been working with Joe Walters on customer development for over a year. I apologize that we did not adequately address the Hansen Asset Management System in the proposal. We already use GIS and Infomap to collect and store data on the operation and condition of the district's pipelines, valves, and blow-offs. But we now fully understand what the district wants and needs with the Hansen system. In a letter I gave to Mr. Hunt, we have estimated the work effort to set up and test the Hansen software, migrate the data we already have into the Hansen system, enter any new data that the district wants us to track, and keep the Hansen Asset Management System up to date monthly. And because we value our partnership with you, we will perform these tasks with no additional cost to the district. We're very committed to our long-established relationship with the district, and we ask that you consider Liberty so we can continue that successful partnership. Thank you.
The letter has been passed out to the directors. Mr. Fred Price, do you wish to speak?
Good morning, directors. My name is Fred Kreis. I'm Regional Director for Severn Trent for our 11 contract services in the state of California. I just have a few comments this morning, nothing prepared. I always speak from the heart because actions are what matter and talk is very, very cheap. Let me say I understand how difficult it is to make a change, and we would be grateful for the opportunity to provide you with service. We won't let you down. I'd like to say that we bring energy, enthusiasm, and some new ideas, which were included as part of our proposal. Let me also state that, and I've got Iris Ramos with me today from Huntington Park. She'll be very involved in the project along with myself. Iris has 25 years. Well, I would say Huntington Park, we've been there for 25 years, so we know the area very, very well. Iris has been in Huntington Park for a good long time. In fact, she grew up there and started working out of high school. If I could, I've got 40 years of working on water reuse systems throughout the southwestern United States and California. My company is very focused on safety and compliance. And we've got a real passion for customer service. We've got a proven and documented process for transitioning new systems online. I want to assure you that recruiting for us is an ongoing effort. I'm talking to people all the time interested in joining our company. We have a database available of staff. We're always evaluating because we never know when we're going to get asked to come in and provide service. So I'm quite confident we can deliver you highly qualified and a professional staff that's very knowledgeable about recycled water systems. I guess I'd say, with regard to the comments about Bell Gardens, I'm not aware of any issues, but let me please explain something to you. Severn Trent began to operate the Bell Garden system in mid-2013. Prior to that point in time, it was operated by a different company. I personally became involved in very late 2014 as regional director for California. And I do know that Severn Trent was addressing some staffing changes, some changes that had to be made at Bell Gardens. We were in the process of doing that. I also know that in late 2014 and early 2015, when Bell Gardens put that contract out to bid and Park Water, now Liberty, was selected, what I can say is we worked very hard with transition, and we went to Bell Gardens and we said we will continue providing you services month to month to allow Park Water, Liberty, to get their operations up and running. And I know I met with Chalvu, the Public Works Director, in late 2014 and early 2015 and committed our resources to providing a smooth transition. So I'm not aware of any service issues. I'd be willing to sit down with staff to address what those were. And so those are my comments today, and we're very grateful that you are considering us as your service provider. Thank you so very much.
Okay. Picking back up, this item was reviewed and discussed in detail at the Engineering and Operations Committee. For some brief background, and this will be on the RFP process, the RFP was posted on the district's website on May 1st of 2017. Staff did exceed procurement policy requirements for advertising these services. A pre-proposal meeting was conducted on May 16th of 2017, and a 4-hour pre-proposal tour of the district's above-ground facilities took place on May 18th of 2017. Proposals were due June 16th, 2017, and staff received 2 proposals in response to the RFP, one from Liberty Utilities and one from Severn Trent Services. Interviews took place on Friday, June 30th and Friday, July 7th. There were 5 district staff members on the evaluation and interview panel. Stephen DePuja from West Yost Engineering was our experienced external party, volunteering their time for this process. And now if I can direct your attention to the first slide that we have, that would be great. I would like to start off by pointing out that both of these companies are very capable of doing great work for the district. And because of this, staff focused on the major differences between the 2 proposals and interviews in order to make the best informed group decision. This information was included in your memo. Considering new information was provided today at today's meeting by the contractors, I would like to mention that I will be presenting the information that our panel came to a determination on from the evaluation and interview process, because that was conducted with the information that the interview panel had at that time. The first main difference, which is their business model that you'll see at the top, is addressing that Severn Trent is a private service provider while Liberty is regulated by the PUC. The second and third major differences in their operational approaches and use of a computerized maintenance management system as proposed, which in our case is our Hansen Infor asset management program. Severn Trent will be staffing a full-time team that will be solely dedicated to the district system and will be using an asset management program staff obtained previously through a grant which isn't fully developed yet and will take quite a bit of effort to implement by district staff. Severn Trent has extensive experience with this program and has proposed to fully implement it for the district in their proposal. Also, by fully implementing the asset management program, it will help the district have a baseline for system conditions assessment in one place, which has many advantages. And one of these advantages would be to tie into capital spending planning, and the other is for future rate cases, amongst many others. For staffing and management, Liberty is able to do the same. However, the approach proposed utilizes a smaller number of staff that are able to address issues for both the district and their own system on a regular basis. In addition, as proposed, the asset management program implemented under Liberty, if elected to have Liberty use it, would require more district staff time to implement and would cost additional money to implement because the program development and use of the program was not part of their proposal. The other option we do have with Liberty is that they operate their own system on a different asset management program, which they have proposed to use for our system previously. This would limit immediate access by district staff. However, they could give us data or offer to give us data that we could use in our own program later. However, if they do use their program, we will not have our own system set up complete and have complete independence from that if we ever need it. The fourth major difference has to do with recycled water meters at our end user sites. Severn Trent is suggesting something, and Kevin had mentioned this several times in the past recently, about the need to improve operations efficiencies and capture lost revenue, and this is by investing in meters. Also to investigate the possibility of replacing retailer recycled water meters with our own and taking on the responsibility of reading those meters. Liberty has proposed to continue to provide annual inspection and reading of all customer meters for validation purposes in their proposal. The fifth major difference listed is related to the third and fourth previously mentioned, and that's to address the asset management. Severn Trent heavily incorporates asset management into their proposal to the district. Liberty stated in their proposal that the district's strategy for asset management was not well described, and in response did not put much emphasis on asset management programs. The sixth major difference staff noticed was personnel hours. For very near the same pricing, Severn Trent is offering twice the number of hours than Liberty is proposing. This increased their score for staff availability, turnaround time, and resources. Extra hours proposed by Severn Trent could greatly benefit the district. They could be used to complete the system metering study, work on replacing existing meters with AMR meters, and to begin reading those meters. And staff in Severn Trent would identify future uses for those hours should they be awarded a contract by the board. The seventh difference staff noted is to investigate conditions of the district's cathodic test stations. Severn Trent will do this and input results into the asset management M4 Hazen system. Liberty is essentially doing the same thing in their proposal, however, it will be a separate study. The eighth and final major difference staff was able to pull from proposals and interviews is for valve maintenance cycles. This would relate to exercising valves and tending to their overall health needs. Severn Trent will be on a 2-year cycle, which is a shorter cycle than Liberty, who proposed a 3-year cycle. Here on this slide, I will touch on the evaluation process for proposals and interviews. This slide shows the weighted evaluation criteria table that is directly pulled from the RFP. The RFP has 5 weighted categories with multiple subcategories. The 5 main weighted categories are shown here with their corresponding weights. And we use this for proposals and consider it during interviews as well. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide, the evaluation panel has agreed on a score of 5.15 for Severn Trent and 4.20 for Liberty Utilities.
Jackie, I'm sorry, do you have a breakdown?
Do I have a breakdown of all the scores?
Well, you have the total score, but a breakdown for each category.
We do have that available.
Thank you.
Here on this slide, I will touch on the evaluation process for proposals and interviews. Oh, sorry. This next slide shows the breakdown of fees for Severn Trent that was included in your memo. The total fees with the variable consumer price index are estimated to be $4,110,254, and this is not including contingency. This slide shows the breakdown for Liberty Utilities fees, which include an annual increase of 2.5% and sum to $4,088,043, and this is also not including contingency. And this breakdown was also included in your memo. This slide shows estimated costs side by side, and this is to make it a little bit easier to compare.
Excuse me, Jackie.
Yes.
Director Skew, did we answer your question? Did you want to see that score sheet now?
I'll get back to that, yeah.
Okay, yeah. We can pull that up.
We can. We do have it on hand whenever you want to see it.
Yeah, if you have it, yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Starting with Severn Trent, you will see their 5-year total, a little over $4.1 million. A 3% CPI annual increase was used to calculate the highest price possible for Severn Trent, and this is because we cannot foresee future CPIs. 3% was used because the district preset this cap on annual increases, and this was in the RFP. So the actual CPI in future years may be less than 3%, and at that point, the fees would be less, and then we would see a cost savings. The additional costs for customer development are also added to these calculations. So moving on to Liberty Utilities, you will see that their 5-year total coming in at a little under $4.1 million. Their 2.5% annual increase is set for every year and was proposed below the 3% cap set by the district in the RFP, and customer development was also included here as well. And as previously mentioned, their estimated fees are very close. They show a difference of $22,211 over the 5-year initial contract term, and that is a little less than $4,500 per year. At the engineering committee, it was requested that we include a breakdown of pros and cons for the board. This information was included in your memo, and I'll briefly run through it, the information on the slide for you. So starting with Liberty, who is on top, the pros for Liberty are they have staff already there. They are familiar with the district system, experience with customer development is extensive, and Liberty presents less overall risk. Cons for Liberty are additional costs and staff time for asset management, and their proposal may not use the district's asset management program, and Liberty staff are not 100% dedicated to the district system. For Severn Trent, the pros for them are twice as many personnel hours in the proposal. Asset management implementation is included in their proposal, and they will use the district's program, which they have a ton of experience with, and staff will be 100% dedicated to the system only. Cons for Severn Trent are they need to hire staff. They do not have projects identified for extra hours in the proposal. Not as familiar with the district system. Most of their clients have been out of state, and it is riskier to contract with a new operator that we do not know as well as Liberty. And at this point, I'm happy to take questions or go over the scoring.
Could you pull up that scoring sheet, please?
Right. It's in the presentation, board presentation file.
Jackie, I have one, but it's more of a legal question. We have 3 appointed directors, and they were appointed by a special interest group. Liberty is a member of that special interest group. Is there a conflict of interest?
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, Mr. President. Who am I representing? Special interest group?
No, there's no conflict of interest in that none of the appointed directors are employed by or consultants for either of these companies, as far as I know. If they are, they would have to place that information on their Form 700 and, in the process of the discussion, recuse themselves from that discussion.
Okay. Did we want to review this, or I can go over it for you? Or
Questions, anybody? I'm still on the special interest group.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a question. So this letter that we received, could you go back one slide, Jackie? So this letter that we received, go back, go to the pros and cons slide. So this letter that we received from Liberty, just about all those cons come out, don't they?
Several do.
There's only 3 there. What's several? 2?
The con is additional cost of time instead of the asset management and use of the asset management program. So 2 of the 3 come out. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, which one is not coming out?
What's that? The staff dedication.
Albert, I can't hear.
The fact that the staff are not 100% dedicated.
Well, what does that mean?
Liberty shares their staff. They operate our system and the other systems that they operate in the region, in the area, as one operational area. So what we understand Severn Trent is there's people who identify we're working solely on our system.
Okay. Has there been any problem in the last 25 years with their staff Liberty staff not being solely dedicated as far as their performance?
I could tell you in the last 25 years.
How about the last 7 years?
The last 7 years, they've been giving us great performance. There's always little things here and there with every contractor, but they have been giving excellent performance.
So you have a history of 3 years on the entire system and 25 years on half of the system. And the answer to the question is there's very little, if any, problems with that. So I agreed. My comment is I'd like to ask questions of the two contractors. Oh, excuse me, the two agencies that have put proposals forward. Can we do that or no?
Well, let's think that through for a minute. Okay, we go through a process here, procurement, which includes soliciting proposals, qualifying, having interviews with an outside panel and discussion, and it comes out of the board for a decision. They're very close. Can we entertain discussions?
I'll retract my question. No, I'll put them towards you, Kevin, because you were there. So my question is, what exactly is Liberty's staff are doing when they're working on the system, and what exactly is Severn Trent's staff are doing when they're working on the system?
We don't know what Severn Trent staff, because they have not been working on the system. They've provided, basically the big difference is twice the hours. And those hours are things that we can, for example, a small one that showed up is exercising the valves on a 2-year cycle versus a 3-year. Second one was identified as the meter approach to metering, and that in a more intensive scrutiny of the meters.
Do you know how many valves you have in the system approximately?
We do. It's about 1,450.
1,400? And those are those generally large valves?
They're smaller valves.
They're smaller valves. And generally, I don't know that you're losing anything by not exercising the valves every 3 years, because it means half of your system or a third of your system is getting exercised. So it'd be interesting to know what they're doing. The other thing is the reference check on Severn Trent. How deep did you guys go on that?
We talked to 3 of the 4. I don't know if we heard back from the 4th.
No, we did not.
Okay. We talked to 3 out of the 4 that were listed, and we went deep enough to ask the appropriate questions. They came back clean. We were also referenced to talk to Chow Vu. We talked to her. She had some negative comments, but she wasn't listed as a reference. It was a supplemental. I looked them up in terms of articles and stuff that are out there just for my own edification, and they have extensive operations throughout the country that seem to be, the press seems to be generally favorable. Both of them had different situations. I mean, Liberty used to be Park Water Company. It's now part of Algonquin. Severn Trent was just sold 2 weeks ago. They spun off from the English firm that owned them and are now a wholly owned U.S. company. It's still big enough to be substantial. I believe it's 1,500, 1,800 people, so they're big enough people. So there's been changes at the management level. But in terms of references that I've seen, I have not comments from Bell Gardens. I have not had any negative on Severn Trent, and certainly no negative ones whatsoever on Liberty.
Mr. President, I suppose you have opened it up for questions. May I? Yes, thank you. Jackie, was the pre-proposal meeting mandatory in the RFP?
Correct.
And the site visits also?
No.
The site visit was not, but the pre-proposal was mandatory?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Customer development was not included in the proposed fees for regular operations and maintenance for both interested parties. Do you know why did we make that a requirement?
It was an optional service that we asked for with the RFP.
That was to preserve our option.
So was it an alternate, lack of a better term?
It was optional. We requested that they propose, and as it is, both of the firms that submitted proposed with the same gentleman and the same proposal, so it wasn't a distinguishing factor. They both gave exactly the same proposal. But we wanted to have the option of canceling it if we could as an identified service.
Right. So the number of hours, there is a huge delta, or I chose the wrong terminology. I'm sorry. A huge difference between the two parties, what they're proposing. Was there an estimated number of hours for operating and maintaining the system provided in the RFP?
Not detailed, not to that detail.
Not detailed, but just a rough figure of, we anticipate this many hours.
There was 8,000 proposed by Severn Trent. There was 3,800 proposed by Liberty Utilities. In addition to the 8,000 by Severn Trent, they also gave us 200 additional extra specialty hours, and that's from their corporate area to utilize.
Yeah, no, I understand what they have proposed. My question is, in the language of the RFP, was there a reference to the potential number or estimated number of hours required to maintain and operate the system?
No, that was not clarified.
That was not clarified.
And nor is it appropriate to do so. We rely on their expertise to estimate it.
Understood.
Yeah.
But when I have 8,000 versus 3,800, my question is, what is one giving which the other one is not giving? And if I want to compare dollars to dollars, you have the cost for 1 year roughly is the first year is how much?
It was
about 700,000.
Let's call it 700.
For either one.
Yeah, 700. So 700,000. So if we are holding the 8,000 hours, 700,000 to 8, the cost per hour is going to be much less for one as opposed to the other one.
Significantly, about $100 an hour less.
So how is that possible then? How is that going to work out?
This comes down to, and bring back my when I used to manage these type of contracts, what you have is different overhead structures on the company and different positions on how they include their assets and that in it. But basically, Severn Trent is strictly an overhead O&M company. They tend to be much flatter. Each is a standalone, hired for duration. When they go, they're not permanent employees of the company. Liberty is more of a regulated PUC. They have a different overhead structure where they have to pay rate cases every 3 years, and they provide corporate services out to each of their areas. And when they have opportunities like what they do here, where they do an O&M and the regulated PUC in the same area, they have the ability to share resources, but to do that, they have to share overhead. Originally, they had started setting these up as, I'll use Golden State as a good example, since we don't know anybody who works there. And Golden State was trying to spin off an operation and maintenance under the same overhead, and I believe it was the PUC said, no, you've got to have the same overhead structure. So different business models. The hour for Severn Trent may be less. What we're not sure of is, because we don't have their resumes yet, is the caliber of the people that they've hired. We presume they're going to hire, say, an operator 3 with a certain certification. And those we looked up, and they cost, what,
Right.
Roughly $35 an hour in salary alone, not counting benefits, overhead, et cetera. And that's about $70,000 a year, roughly, that is what it costs to get an operator 3 level. Again, we'd have to see how that translates. The equipment that they provide, the trucks that are required, each one requires a vehicle and all that, it's all embedded in the cost. It is a significant price difference. There's no way to look at it. Twice as many hours is very unusual to see that big a difference on it. In the models of the overhead, without going in and analyzing it, the companies, what we do know is that with a dedicated 8,000 hours versus a dedicated roughly 4,000 hours, there are services that we can request of them, assuming they're in the scope of the contract, and that should be able to save us time and money down the road. That's the theory. Sure. That's why we value those hours. Hasn't been proven, no, but it is an option that's out there.
I'm certain that a number of these questions, if not all, have been raised at the engineering subcommittee, perhaps.
Please feel free to raise them.
Pardon?
Please feel free to bring him up here.
No. I said, I'm assuming there was a
And there was
discussion.
There was a vigorous debate, and the committee did not make a recommendation. They passed it on. They did not bless the staff recommendation. It just passed it on.
It's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
When is the contract with Liberty end? When does it end? Current contract?
September, end of September, September 31st.
Okay. The thing that I have is a concern where we say there is more overall risk. That's a general term, but when we are talking about a higher overall risk and almost the same dollar value as far as the values of each, $22,000 in 5 years, $4,000 a year. That concerns me.
If I might answer, there's two parts of this. It is, we specifically called out the risk. There is more overhead because we do not know Severn Trent, the people have not been identified, etc. There's also more reward in terms of those hours that we could theoretically put to use. The real question for the board is whether the risk exceeds the reward. We, our staff, think they're both capable firms. They both could have good proposals, different approaches. Either way, the district is saving money over its prior contract, and we're happy.
I'm sorry, Kevin or Jackie, was the optional 5 years, second 5 years, if you will, a part of the RFP?
Yes.
Thank you.
Director Grajeda.
Yeah, as chair of the engineering committee, we went through this and looked at it and had a lot of questions, and the committee couldn't come up with to support the recommendation by the staff because we felt the risk factor was too great. And I still believe the risk factor is too great at this time. I think we can get geared up for something like this going forward, and we can perhaps do a better job of preparing ourselves, documenting how many hours it takes, documenting what we actually want from a contractor, and going forward and putting all that and setting up the RFP so that the next time we can control that rather than going out to a consultant on that. But look at everything that we want in a contractor to do. $750,000 annually, that's a huge risk to take on and not know what they're going to do. In their proposal, they've stated they're going to do a lot of things. They're going to turn valves every 2 years. They're going to certify meters. They're going to do all that. If they put that in their proposal, that would be what I would be looking for in my reference check. Is that what you folks look for in your reference check? If they were turning valves and certifying meters and doing all that stuff with their other clients?
Well, when we contacted their other clients, they informed us on some of the items that they were doing for them, and they were doing those things for some of those clients, and then they gave us feedback on how they felt about their performance.
Well, performance and doing the things they said they would do for you folks on a biannual basis are two different things. I think they're probably performing well with what they're told to do, but if they're going to say they're going to do all these other things, that's what I would be checking on. Certification of meters, if there are not our meters, then we're going to have to buy the meters and do all that too. So I would, if there's no more discussion, I would throw out.
You want to let the others?
Okay, I'm done with my comments.
Director Vasquez, do you have any comments?
Not at the moment. No, not at the moment.
Director Aceituno?
I just want to say something quickly. I think that both companies submitted their best and final proposal, and it always troubles me when after the fact, if they were given the opportunity to put their best foot forward for someone after they have an opportunity to see the other company's proposal to add on different things and say they're going to do things after the fact. Nothing against either company. I think they're both capable, but that's my only concern with the letter that we received this morning.
Director?
No, I agree.
Okay.
Just one comment. I do want to, for the record, disagree politely with Director Grajeda. I believe the proposal was written exactly the way it was supposed to be for this type of project. Just like you don't tell a contractor when you bid out a construction contract how many hours he's supposed to use. You leave the ingenuity not up to them. Same thing on these O&M contracts. Unless it's very, very specified, you don't put out specific number of hours. That's where you tell them what you want done, you let them see the system, read all the stuff, look all the records, which is what they've done, and then come up with their approach on how they're going to do it. So even if we did this again, I wouldn't change the process to be much more specific.
I didn't mention hours, Kevin. I'm talking about turning valves and some of this other stuff. Those are more specific.
Yeah, and some of those are, we had some of that in the proposal that were definite that we needed. Other these are not. I agree with you that 2 years versus 3 years is not a make or break for a decision like this. I think you have much more experience in the field than I do on that, and when you say 3 years is fine, that's fine. But anyway, getting down to the final thing here, we have, if the directors have no comments, from a staff standpoint, they're both good. We thought Severn Trent was slightly better. That was our recommendation. Even if we take into account the information here, it brings it much closer, but that's still our recommendation. But again, we can live with either. It's a board decision.
My closing comment is that I have personally worked with Liberty, and before that, Park Water. I'm the one that's been with the district the longest, and they've done fantastic work. In general, I can't say anything. And Jean Marie has been very, very supportive in every aspect. But we're up under the gun right now. That gun is, and my new colleagues have constantly reminded me, we've got to watch and what it's going to cost us and how much we're going to get. And that we depend on the process that we've gone through for 1 year with the legislator directing us as to what we should be following, and our staff through the general manager has made their recommendation. And personally, I have to be supportive of that recommendation. And that's all I have to say.
Is that a motion?
Mr. President, if I may, a couple more questions real quick. Kevin, by examining the records, one would perhaps understand roughly how many hours is required to operate a system, right? Yeah. So you didn't have to spell it out in the RFP, but if you allowed someone to examine the documents and the records, they would be able to figure that out.
Yeah, and the bills, everything is transparent in the history of the operation of the district.
I appreciate that. And Director Grajeda, I suppose what you meant was more of a performance-based O&M contract.
Yeah, something so that they're both hitting all the numbers, yes.
Right. And I share the same concern with Director Aceituno in the world of public works bidding, and this is not a bid, I understand this is a proposal. If a bidder submits the information which was required as part of the bid late, then their bid will be not accepted. And I get that and I understand that, but this is a proposal process. I certainly do appreciate the effort and time put in place by both parties to present a proposal to the district. My biggest concern is, why did the engineering subcommittee make a recommendation to the board? I'm concerned about that. The members are sitting to either side of me. The contract is not going to be up until September. We have another board meeting between now and that date.
Director, but the process is, assuming it was approved today, we still have to negotiate. It's not just we run out and sign this contract. There's a negotiation. There's time for the people to get their employees on board. If we kick it to the next month's board meeting, which means we make a decision in August, you're still in limbo for another month. You don't have time then for them to get their people on board and the negotiations on the contract. I mean, I don't know, and I don't know what other additional information, because at a certain point the process becomes stale. All the information's out there in the office, and they're going to continue to get letters from Liberty and now from Severn Trent changing. Are we opening the whole thing up again? I know it's a tough decision, and again, I probably shouldn't even be saying this, but I'd prefer we made a decision today.
Why don't, Kevin, we remind Director Askew that the contract actually ended in June or July?
But we extended it.
Yeah, July 15th, actually.
But we extended it for this process, and then that's the issue. So we extended it so we can make a decision, and if there is a change, they have a few months to change over.
So let me ask this question then. As the member of the engineering subcommittee, at the time of the meeting, which was a couple of weeks ago, I suppose, you did not feel comfortable to make a recommendation. There was a lot of information that was provided today, a lot of discussion, the report. Do you feel comfortable with the information that you have received?
I do, and we did have a recommendation. We didn't go forward with it, but it would not have been staff's recommendation. It would have been a different recommendation. But we want to discuss it today before the entire board.
So that discussion in your mind has taken place and the concerns have been addressed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Director Vasquez?
Oh, no, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Questions have been answered with the presentation.
Again, the staff recommendation.
Okay. With that, the recommended motion to the board will be that the board authorize the general manager to, number one, enter into a contract with Severn Trent for operations and maintenance of the district's recycled water distribution system and for customer development services for a term of 5 years beginning July 16th, 2017 and expiring on July 16th, 2022 in the amount of $4,110,254 plus a 15% contingency of $616,538 for a total not to exceed amount of $4,726,792. And number two, allow the district the option to extend the contract for 5 additional years to July 16th, 2027, subject to a performance evaluation. The contract agreement will have a termination clause to be negotiated that will be based upon the best interests of the district.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would make a substitute motion, or another motion, and that would be to enter into a contract with Liberty Utilities for the operations. But I would also substitute it to be 3 years with an option to extend for 2 years. Can we do that?
Well, the pricing is all based on 5 years.
5 years. Then it would be...
But I will recommend that when we talk about, we can cancel the contract at any time with sufficient notice. There's a clause we're going to put in that when we talk about something based upon district best interest. Now, you don't have the ability to terminate for whatever reason. It may just be you decide you want to do it yourself, or maybe unhappy with performance, maybe changed economic conditions. So we always have a cancellation.
You know, Kevin, my only issue was I felt that 5 years was a long time. Up until now, your contracts have been for 3 years.
Here they have been, yes.
And this last one currently was 3 years?
Yes.
And I thought 3 years plus 2, that's 5 years. So my motion then would be enter into a contract with Liberty Utilities, all of the things being the same unless there's something else, for operations and maintenance of the district's recycled water distribution system. I believe
based upon their numbers. The numbers will change very slightly, but based upon their numbers.
Based upon their proposal, yes. And that would be for 5 years, correct, Kevin?
Yes, sir.
That's my motion.
For 5 years, you said?
Yes, as in the proposal.
Mr. President, I'm also part of that committee, and it's been interesting listening to very important debate today. During the committee, many of these topics were raised, and I'll just raise a couple more that came up during that meeting. Number one is you have an operator of a system who has good experience, they've got a good record, they are in place, they're willing to do the job. No information regarding complaints were brought to us, but no operation of any system is perfect. Anytime you bring a new set of operators into that system, there are a lot of unknowns in the best of all worlds. And as we've seen from the presentation today, there are risks associated with that. Some of the risks that I saw being from a utility has to do with who are your people actually operating that system. And so those questions came up, and I was more comfortable with Liberty doing that job than I was with Severn Trent. So I would second the motion from Director Grajeda.
Roll call, please.
Would you read the motion again?
Yes. Oh. Go ahead. Okay, so it would be modified.
Motion is from Director Grajeda to enter into a 5-year contract with Liberty Utilities based upon the same rates as indicated in the recommended motion.
No, it's recommended in their proposal.
In their proposal, excuse me.
They're slightly different.
And I just want to clarify, Jackie, you had read out July, but in your memo it says August, so we just wanted to clarify those dates for that contract.
It was July.
It's July, not as stated here in the memo and your recommendation.
Correct.
So just for clarification, July 1st?
Oh, I apologize. It is August. It is August, yes.
Okay, so as stated here in your recommended motion, the dates?
Yes.
So we have a first by Director Grajeda and a second by Director Gedney.
Okay. Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
I'm going to abstain.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
No.
Director Aceituno?
No.
President Apodaca?
No.
We have a problem here in that nothing was approved.
Well, so far.
So you can go to another motion.
Then go back to the original motion.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we accept staff recommendation.
I'll second.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
No.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
No.
Director Hawkins?
Yes.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 19, legal billing for June 2017 for Nosselman's LLP in excess of $25,000.
Per the board's orders, whenever a bill is over $25,000 legal bill, we take it to the committee. This month, the reason it exceeded was strictly due to the litigations that we had, plus the special circumstances with the special hearing on the KETAM. All legitimate and extraordinary items we should be concluded with. We are concluded with the KETAM hearing and with the Belkey case, and we should be concluded with the Huntington Park case this week. So we think this is the extraordinary billings. So I recommend approval of the billing.
What's the recommended?
Recommend approving of the billing.
Do I have a motion?
I move that.
Mr. Chairman, second?
Second.
Director Oscui?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Director Grajeda?
Yes.
Director Chacon? Director Gedney?
Yes.
Director Hawkins?
I'm going to abstain.
Director Aceituno?
Yes.
President Apodaca?
Yes. Item 20.
Okay. Now, item 20 is the Robert's Rules of Order workshop that we were going to do, which takes, what, about a half hour?
Depends on, it might.
But we've had a long day today. The question is, are the directors up for it, or do you want to move it to a later meeting? We can do it later on in the year, still be in compliance.
Well, those that have, other jobs, and it would only be fair to them to find out what's more convenient for them, because...
That's why I asked the directors.
I think we should continue it.
Continue now, or continue with the item?
We should continue the item. It's been a long day, and I don't know how long that's going to take on top of it.
Is that okay with that?
If we take a 5-minute break, I can go till 1 o'clock.
Just for clarification, continue to another day, Director, or continue the item right now?
No, continue to a later date.
A later date.
Mr. President, I would agree. We should have the full board present when we go through this process. That's the minimum qualification from my perspective. So I would move to continue as well.
Okay, do we need a kind of a motion, or we just go
No,
ahead?
we just table it.
Okay.
I know it'll make Mr. Pellman very happy. He's been practicing.
What we could do, if I may suggest, we could table it to another date and we could check with the board on their availability.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay, item 21, general manager's comments, please.
A couple of things. One, a reminder that this Friday coming up is the Southern California Water Committee. We are the hosts at the DoubleTree. It's 11:31. All of the directors have been invited. The district participating on Tuesday, August 2nd on National Night Out events. Again, I encourage all the directors to attend in your community. We have approximately 10 places where we're going to be. 9, okay. 9 that we're going to have tables at, I think. There's no caucus meeting scheduled in August. The next one is scheduled for September 6th. And we are planning a special workshop on the California Water Fix for August 21st to 23rd at 10 o'clock. We'll be contacting the board at their availability on those 2 days. This will be prior to the board being able to take a position on that at our regularly scheduled August board meeting. All of the white paper should be out by then. But it'll be important that we provide direction to our Met directors at that time. That's all I have. One last thing I would like to say that watching the board in action today was actually a pleasure for me. It was a board acting, seven different people, different opinions, all participating appropriately. I was very proud to be part of Central Basin, so thank you very much.
Directors, comments of any organization? Nothing yet.
Mr. President, no comment.
Ms. Vasquez?
No comment. Because we're going to get to the report, right? Okay.
Phil, do you have any comment or any? No comment. No. What's that? 23. You already gave, general counsel, I forgot. None?
No, I had nothing else to report. As Mr. Hunt reported, Friday it will be a court hearing on
That's what I asked you.
the only remaining lawsuit regarding AB 1794. We expect to be reporting a good result from that meeting, that court hearing, and that is the last lawsuit that has been filed against the district since Mr. Hunt became the general manager.
First time will be litigation-free.
When you came aboard, how many did we have?
At that time, somewhere 5, I believe.
So this was the last of the cleared, thank goodness. Director Vasquez, you have.
So yeah, I just wanted to report on a meeting on the conference attended, the NALEO conference, which was from June 22nd to June 24th. And that I attended the session on water infrastructure and the environment. Thank you.
That's it. I just want to make one closing statement. I'm very proud of the board. Everybody has their opinion, come from different areas, but we all work together. And basically, that's what Kevin's been trying to do. And he's worked very hard at this. And I just want to say thank you to all the board members. With that, meeting's adjourned.